Okay, so I think we're back for what is probably going to be the last little segment in the Moloch discussion. So I would just like to touch on a couple of things. I guess they are sort of a part of those solutions that we went through in one way or another. So yeah, I want to look at in terms of self-interest, like what self-interest really is, and what self-interest may be versus like rational self-interest, because there's often this like idea and emphasis with these situations we're looking at on like the initial steps that these actors are taking. You know, they're doing something for their own benefit, and that in isolation, so by itself, that action is within their self-interest. So I do take issue with that, because I'm a sort of big proponent of being what I call rationally self-interested, or like rationally selfish. And the idea there is like selfish in a more complete way, where it's like over a long term, and it's like rationally self-interested, like with all things considered, I think is a good way of putting it. And I think a lot of the issue comes into play here because we naturally think that being self-interested is, or being selfish is like the greatest sin that we are capable of. And our standard of like the good is sort of what is good for what we say is everyone, or
everyone,
sort of things.
Mm.
But I think it can lead. I think if our standard is like everyone, then that can lead to some like lack of responsibility, or it can lead to some destructive things, which I want to show. Because then the idea of everyone really comes down to like, okay, then it's the community, or then it's the majority of people, and then it's okay, if we can just maximize like a utility like happiness or prosperity or something, then that could mean the happiness of the 9 out of the 10 people, and then that leaves the 10th to be like expendable or something like that, and then suddenly the 8th, the 7th, and that could keep going down until, well, theoretically maybe you get to 6, because then the 6 out of the 10 are benefiting, and so there's more than the 4 that have lost their lives or something. But just for one example, because I think it is really hard for a lot of people to get their head around like the self-interested thing and the selfish thing, and all of that. So if someone was to ask me like, why do you park your ar, like, and now I don't always park perfectly or anything, but I'm pretty good. If someone was to ask like why do you always like park in a way which is considerate of the other people in the parking lot, or something like that, I would say to them like, because I care about myself, or because I have like self-esteem. But more importantly, in this example, I would say it's because I want to be able to like park easily like next time. And what I mean by that is like I don't want other people to be parking in some crazy way. And so people would think, surely you're parking this way because you just like respect the other people around you.
Not necessarily. No, I just care about myself.
Yeah, and I mean, like I can say like, yeah, I want other people to be able to park like conveniently and things, but it, like, if I'm honest about it, it really goes back to and starts with my own interests. Because if I don't park in some appropriate way, then like it kind of gives other people license to not park in that way. But the interesting thing here is, it sounds like I'm some selfish jerk who's only doing like good things for myself.
For yourself, yeah.
Like, yes, that is true, but that's the ultimate way of getting everyone to do the good behavior, you know. And yeah, I think if your standard was not like, say, the convenience or like the safety of your own vehicle, or the time that you would save, all of these things for yourself, if it was instead like those sorts of values for like the whole group, then all it would take is for like one of the people to be like, okay, let's form some sort of union, and then actually stop the selfish jerk Christian from parking here. and then we'll be able to make sure that there's always like a spare park, and then we can all park our cars however the fuck we want to, because
the selfish jerk will be gone.
Yeah, we're not going to need the parking spots, you know?
Yeah.
There's going to be enough room for us to like all park like facing each other and just crazy shit. And they could keep on doing that, you know, like, because, yeah, I think that everyone's park could be like expendable down to like the 5th or the 6th maybe, because then they would say like, okay, now there's almost more people that we've like kicked out of the car park than we've kept. But the people that do these sorts of deals, they're jumping through like all sorts of hoops in their head. None of it makes sense anyway. So there's probably just going to be that one that one guy at the start left. So I guess that's a sort of example of where, yeah, for one, I think if people think long term, they can see that like their one action is not going to benefit them. And there's other examples, like in that essay, where there's like fishing companies, I think, and one of them starts using like some sort of thing which pollutes the ecosystem, I believe, and it gets them a bigger market share or something. And then so everyone starts using it, but then the ecosystem is impacted.
I think the bigger the system will function in, the harder it is to use beautiful words, by the way. I think it's better than all the solutions ChatGPT has suggested because of its left-wing bias, is identifying rational self-interest. And it's easier to identify rational self-interest in a parking lot with 10 spots than in the ocean, or in a parking lot with 1,000 spots. Yeah, the smaller the system, the easier you see that if you are, the easier it is for you to see that if you behave like a jerk, very soon it's gonna boomerang back to you. The shit that you laid onto other people is gonna come back flying at you. The bigger the system, the harder it is for individuals to identify rational self-interest. And I think here, this is where AI can help us, but AI trained in the right, prompted in the right way.
Yes, no, absolutely. That's a great point. Yeah, I think as soon as you move from the parking lot to anything bigger, or where stakes are higher or something like that, you know, people, yeah, the complexities just can grow exponentially. People can get more like emotional about things, and then close off like their rational understanding of self-interest and of how to best coordinate and things like that. So, but I think, yeah, potentially if we can identify the true sort of rational actions to take and take that long-term view of things, then those same principles should apply. But yeah, it's down to the nature of what the particular situation is and things.
If we can wrap it up, I want to wrap it up with, again, a light example that just came to my mind, a really like funny story in a little way, because identifying rational self-interest is, like I said, I think easier. The smaller the system is, the easier it is to identify. But it also, how should I be politically correct about it? It also depends on the size of the person's brain, so to speak. Because some people can identify rational self-interest at the scale of the whole planet. Some can't even do it at the scale of like a small beach. So the example that I wanted to give is one that my wife Halsna told me. I wasn't witness to that. So she was at the beach, and there were quite a few people there at that time. The weather was good, and she's noticing a lady smoking a cigarette. No biggie, people smoking cigarettes on beaches here. That's not prohibited. And what she's doing, she's finishing her cigarette, and she's got this butt in her hand, and she just puts it in the sand. And Altena is looking at her like I think she didn't even say anything. She's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, just kind of like, seriously? And the response of this lady is just this beautiful example of people who are unable to identify rational self-interest, even in the smallest system. You know what she said? She said, oh, don't worry. No one has seen that. So to her, the only problem would be from like a police person seeing it and say, oh, you have to pay a fine. She doesn't understand that she's going to come back to this beach and it's going to be dirty because she made it dirty. Sorry, I got so taken away. I put my quota.
No, that's a great that's a great point in terms of even one little anecdote like that can suddenly bring to mind the fact that rationality and people's ability to engage their mind properly, even in these smaller scale sort of cases, can be really limited. And we think of how many people are out there.
Yeah. So maybe AI for some people it's just a necessity, to help them identify a rational. For everyone it's a necessity, but for some people starting even at the smallest scale, because the thing is that a lot of people who are littering, a lot of people who are throwing the rubbish into the sea, so to speak, they are inherently not bad people. Well, some are assholes. Some say, well, I don't give a fuck what happens to this planet. I'm on heroin. I'm going to die in 2 years anyway. But most people, they just don't understand, and they just don't put the 2 and 2 together to make a 4. And education, in this case, and some additional explanation, what happens if you behave in a certain way, just extrapolate, will help a lot of people and the society and community in general. So it's not that these people should be, ostracized from society and like put in maximum security prisons. No. Sometimes all it takes is just talking to people and just explaining shit to them. And they're like, oh, really? Oh, I didn't think of that. Well, how didn't you think of that? Never mind. I didn't think of that. So identifying rational self-interest is, I think, the name of the game here. And some people can do it on their own. Some need a little help from other people. Some need help from AI or whatnot.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think we've been able to, I guess, define what Moloch is, explore it in like a variety of ways, and to dig deep into some of these potential solutions and where those complexities are and things, and yeah, tie it back to human nature and yeah, these standards that we live by and things like that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for this What the Talk, Christian. And yeah, let's wrap it up. Press the button.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Andrei. And thanks for listening, guys. See you.